aerospace-style construction to cutting-edge design.
I'm now in the driving seat of the XK. We're always moving towards the future.
And state-of-the-art robots.
They will do the same job over and over again, which gives you a consistency of build.
See how Jaguar manufactures asphalt shredding acceleration with refined elegance.
I've not driven anything better.
Super luxury sports cars built for prestige, built for power, and built for speed. SpeedMakers, Jaguar. Steeped in British history, Jaguar has a long tradition of turning heads and taking checkered flags. But a new generation of their champion race cars are being built using space-age design and futuristic tools today. A car designed from decades of racing DNA, the Jaguar XK.
The XK is just a fantastic car to drive. The performance, the driving position, the dynamics of the car.
The elegant XK maintains Jaguar's long-standing tradition of sleek, sensual styling, matched with potent performance. It's a legacy dating back to the earliest XK models. The very first in 1948 helped Jaguar become the most successful British automaker at Le Mans, winning a total of 7 times. Now, Jaguar's taking its tradition of excellence into the future here in Castle Bromwich, England. More than 2,500 people work at the 100-acre site, building some of Jaguar's most coveted cars, including the XJ, Jaguar's signature touring sedan. But just 160 employees are dedicated to the 14-day XK build. That's because over the past 6 years, Jaguar's expanded their use of industrial robots to construct their iconic sports car. Built by ABB Robotics in Sweden, there are 29 robots on the XK line. And each has programmable movement on 6 axes, 3 in the wrist and 3 in each arm. The robots are mounted on linear track systems to further increase their flexibility and allow them to work on several processes at once. Running up to 8 years straight before a major overhaul is needed, ABB robots are rigorously tested way before they're sent into action at a factory. In fact, no user calibration is required once they're put in place, ready to grip, flip, and build. Traveling up to 3 meters a second, robots hoist, glue, bolt, and weld heavy frame sections. But they aren't the solution for everything. Jaguar chassis remain 40% handmade.
Production worker is concerned about quality. A robot just does what you program it to do. The production worker thinks about what he's doing. He will often spot problems, otherwise we'll never pick up.
Still, robots practically pay for themselves, saving Jaguar millions of dollars and reducing work stoppage.
The robots help with ergonomic issues, prevent people from getting back strain, lifting loads. All these sort of processes are much improved.
They're also highly efficient. Each task is completed with precision and speed that's not humanly possible.
We use ABB robots mainly for their repeatability. They will do the same job over and over again, which gives you a consistency of build.
At Jaguar, 28 XKs are produced each day in 4 main areas at the factory. The stamping shop where the parts are fabricated, the body shop where the chassis is constructed, the paint shop where Jags get their sleek finish, and the trim and final hall where workers transform the painted body into an elegant road machine. The 2-week process of building an XK starts in stamping. Here, hydraulic presses turn plain sheets of aluminum into gorgeous exterior body panels and structural parts needed to construct Jaguar's all-aluminum chassis.
It starts to look like a Jaguar right from the first panel being pressed. You look at a panel being pressed in the press shop for the XK, and straight away you can tell that that panel is for the XK sports car.
13 giant presses, each delivering a crushing 2,000 tons of pressure, stamp out over 125 different parts. Different thicknesses of aluminum sheets are used for different areas of the car. Body panels use 9mm gauge, while 3mm gauge is used for parts where extra strength or load bearing is needed. All of this aluminum slashes the body weight down to 633 pounds, including the doors, roof, and hood. It's the lightest car in its class. And the payoff is dramatic. A super strong, super light chassis that's 60% more rigid than steel. This tensile strength helps the suspension deliver a benchmark ride, controlled comfort, and responsive handling.
When you're talking about a brand that's trying to establish a level of precision and reliability, that type of manufacturing can be a great asset.
It doesn't matter how you drive the car, whether you drive the car slowly or you drive the car quickly, the connection is always there.
A lighter car can stop faster, use less fuel, and produce fewer emissions. Best of all, it can accelerate faster.
It's a prestige vehicle of the highest quality, and the things we have to obviously give to our customers is obviously safety, quality, craftsmanship, but above all is speed.
Back at Castle Bromwich, speed meets production efficiency with Jaguar's just-in-time delivery system. Parts are delivered to a station just 2 hours before they're needed.
And the way the operators call for their parts is once they take one of these parts out of the 2 hours worth of stock, he immediately presses this button here, and under there is the unique number of that part, and when he presses that button, that information goes to the stores area. Within 2 hours, they will come round and replace those parts for him.
The just-in-time system helps to keep inventory and costs to a minimum. With all the necessary pieces at their disposal, technicians begin pulling parts to assemble the components that make up each section of the underbody. The XK's underbody is composed of 3 sections: the front end, the center floor, and the rear end. First up, the longitudinals, square beam structures that make up the front end. Each front end has a left and a right longitudinal. These parts are designed to do double duty, support the engine, and provide stiffness for better handling. In between certain parts, workers apply a green adhesive to act as a vapor barrier. Once complete, they load the finished longitudinals on hoists for the next stage. In a separate area, another technician constructs the center tunnel, or transmission tunnel, from 3 pieces. Placing the right and left sides of the tunnel on a brace, he adds expanding rings to seal out liquid and vapors. Applies a bead of red adhesive, this time for additional rigidity, and lays the centerpiece on top, clamping it for curing. Once all the individual components are completed, it's time for a little automated assistance. At the Jaguar factory in Castle Bromwich, key components needed to construct the front, middle, and rear sections of the XK underbody are ready for the next stage. Now it's time to fire up the robots and get these parts assembled fast. With each part in place, robots get to work handling the heavy lifting, flipping components around like pieces of cardboard. Grabbing special tools, the robots begin joining parts to build one of the three main sections of the underbody. While most car chassis are welded, at Jaguar, bodies are built aerospace style with self-piercing rivets.
The main application of the robots in here is SPR, which is a self-piercing rivet process. The larger guns are fitted onto the robots because they're just too heavy for people to manipulate, so we use robots to do that process.
Rivet bonding is also used in aircraft building because it can withstand extreme winds and torque. Completed chassis sections are stored in pairs along the side of the robot cage. At designated intervals, they're moved to the final underbody assembly station. Using a gripper tool, a robot arm snatches a section and moves it into position. Then the robots and their rivet guns begin the joining process.
These robots are multitasking. Not only do they apply the rivets, they also pick and load the parts up.
The assembly of the three chassis sections takes just 12 minutes. Welding could have taken 5 times as long. Finally, with all the aluminum puzzle pieces connected together, the underbody's almost complete. Now it's time to transform this solid base into a finished body-chassis structural combo known as a monocoque. French for single shell. Monocoque is a construction technique that uses the car's exterior components to provide support. Even windshields and rear windows can play important roles in the structural integrity. By distributing load bearing throughout the car, its total weight can be kept to a minimum.
The lightweight architecture in the aluminium gives us an advantage over many other cars. Our engines, our craftsmanship, everything goes towards building speed.
To continue the process of constructing the monocoque, the nearly completed underbody enters an area called the lift and shift section. A series of human workstations, each adding important elements to the chassis, all building toward the chassis' final destination, the Perceptron station, a robot-assisted final inspection. At the final underbody station, technicians attach expanding sealing rings and add blind rivets to finish the underbody joining process. Additional hinges and mounts are also bolted to the frame for connections later down the line. Once finished, the now completed underbody is lifted up and moved out. Next, it arrives at the side panel station. It's here that the XK will receive its true identity. At this point, it could become a coupe or a convertible, but since every Jaguar is made for a specific customer, its future's already predetermined.
That number there is the unique number of that vehicle. So this tells me this is a coupe.
Using lift assisters, technicians carefully install the side panels. Then they manually install the dash top and front header rail. These parts are loose loading, meaning they're not bolted in. Since robots will do the riveting later on, technicians temporarily attach panels by bending over metal tabs. In the last station before final riveting, workers lay on the rear fenders and roof. Finally, the chassis enters the framing station, a robot-powered alignment and riveting process that ensures the car's dimensions are exact. Once in position, the gate lowers, setting the car's alignment. Then, robot riveters do their thing, inserting what are called geometry rivets, locking the car's dimensions. Finally, the gate lifts and exits so the robots can finish the job. The XK's monocoque is nearly done, but there's still one area on the coupe left to join. The gap where the roof meets the rear hatch. Rivets would mar the smooth lines of the roof, so Jaguar's come up with a solution. Robot welding.
And this is all about delivering the right style to get that athletic form, and that one welding process is done by a robot, and it just enables us to get that cosmetic finish absolutely as the customer would expect it to be before the car goes into paint.
In order to ensure the welded pieces are perfectly aligned, technicians perform a step called backpicking. It could be a great way to let off steam, but it's more technical than it looks. They're adjusting the height of the aluminum panels by fractions of a millimeter. Once they're satisfied everything lines up, the last step is taking the car's temperature.
23.8.
Using a laser thermometer, the technician measures heat in degrees Celsius.
If it's below 16, we have a problem welding it. We do. At the moment, we've got 22.9 and 23.8 on the other side. So it's well within, it should weld lovely.
Now the chassis enters the robot welding room. It's perfectly aligned, clamped into place, and then the sparks begin to fly. Aluminum has a far lower melting point than steel, so it takes extreme precision to weld it without damaging the integrity of the parts. Thankfully, a robot can be programmed to move at the perfect speed, completely merging the two sections without burning through the metal. But after the robot finishes welding, the result still leaves a bit to be desired. To make the rear fenders and roof look like one continuous piece of aluminum, technicians grind, sand, and polish until the seam's as smooth as a bare metal sheet. Once painted, it'll be completely invisible. Its next stop, the Perceptron, Jaguar's ultra-precise robot inspector. A Jaguar XK monocoque's just been built, riveted, and welded to near perfection. Now, as it reaches the end of the line, it has to make it past one more critical step. The Perceptron. Here, 26 fixed and 2 robot-mounted lasers measure 165 points on the interior and exterior of the car. This inspection scrutinizes the alignment of every single component, looking for the rare sign of a flaw.
This is critical to anybody's process because you need to be able to build a vehicle with no variability in it.
Jaguar will not pass the car if there's a gap more than 0.5 millimeters. That's the thickness of a fingernail. If the chassis passes inspection, it moves on to the final body in white station. Here, workers install doors and either a standard or a supercharged hood. In the end, the cars get one last once-over under bright lights before going to paint. In all, 290 parts have come together with the help of 385 feet of adhesive and 2,645 self-piercing rivets to form the monocoque.
from a very early stage in body and white, when you start to have a look at the panels being put on the vehicles, you can start to see the shape from a very, very early part of the process and start to see the Jaguar coming to life.
At this point, the Jaguar XK chassis is ready to head to the paint shop. A pristine, dust-free environment, strictly off limits. At the end of paint, the result is a beautiful body to match the V8 engine's brawn. It's a race-inspired mix of form and function that began almost a century ago in the earliest days of a company intent on building speed. The new XK is the latest in a long history of high-quality manufacturing dating back to 1922 and the Swallow Sidecar Company. William Lyons and William Walmsley started out producing motorcycle sidecars. But with success also came a change in focus. By the late 1930s, the first Jaguar was born. But it wasn't until 1948 that the name Jaguar and speed would become synonymous with the XK120. The original XK was ultra-fast, stopped on a dime, and had excellent handling. It was also the fastest production automobile of its day.
The racing heart of Jaguar has always been within the XK. It looks like a sports car, it drives like a sports car, so it's very, very true to its racing heritage.
The XK120 helped Jaguar dominate the sports car market and fix the company's sights on building fast cars. Developing a line of race cars based on the XK120, Jaguar would win the prestigious Le Mans race 4 times in 7 years.
No one had ever seen anything like it. And here was a road car that would do 150 miles an hour, right out of the gate. It did it through efficiency. It did it through very clever design.
Unfortunately for Jaguar, the mid-70s would mark an end to their streak of success. Overseas competitors had emerged to challenge the company's prominence.
I think the thing that really put them on their back feet, as it were, was what happened with the Japanese auto industry, and very specifically, it was Lexus. There were attempts before from the Japanese manufacturers to come in with sort of premium, but Lexus did it right.
But Jaguar wouldn't die, and after 2 decades of reinvention, they reintroduced the XK in 1996, marking the beginning of a new breed of luxury sports cars built on the shoulders of the company's legendary racing lineage.
You'll see a lot of things, certainly on the XK, that have evolved from Jaguar's history and Jaguar's heritage. So the shape of the mouth of the XK, there are a number of things that connect with the history but have a modern twist to them as well.
With the creation of its newest XK, Jaguar's combined all of its former glory with a new burst of innovation. Current XK coupes and convertibles feature many state-of-the-art components new to Jaguar. A high-def virtual instrument panel with a touchscreen navigation system and virtual gauges. The Jaguar Handshake. A rotary knob transmission selector that rises from the center console. Heated and cooled 20-way powered leather seats. The sweep of LED lights underlining xenon headlamps. And even more important, the muscular aluminum architecture. Bold changes made possible by Jaguar's cutting-edge design studio, the Virtual Reality Center. Located at Jaguar's Warwickshire headquarters, the $4 million facility allows engineers to design and refine new components in 3D, long before building physical prototypes.
This facility starts right at the early stages of design. So as soon as the designer has got any sort of CAD data, we can then start visualizing it in 3D. You can understand the curves, the shapes of the exterior. how the interior works together with the different colours. And as that moves through to the engineering stage, we can start piecing the car together and understanding how we would get it through to the manufacturing stage.
The operator wears 3D glasses to visualize full-size models of the car and components, then uses a wand to move in and out of the car. Right now, they're working on a future XK.
So now I can go through the vehicle, I can put myself into the trunk, wander through into the back seats, put myself into the driver's seat, and the steering wheel in front of me, and I can see the Jaguar staring at me from the middle of the wheel. Go right through the vehicle into the engine bay. Got a physical seat in here. There's a line to the H point. Well, that's the hip point of the driver. So about here, which is where most cars are designed. So if I put these on, I then see the 3D image, and as I move my head around, the whole cave re-renders itself in milliseconds. I go and sit inside the car. I'm now in the driving seat of the XK. From here, we can do all-round vision. So as I turn my head, I can see out the back window and round past the A-pillars and out over the landscape. I can even put my head outside the window if I wanted to.
The images are 4 times the resolution of high-def TV.
The vehicle can be placed and then we put it into a mode like walk, and that means we can wander around the vehicle and see it from different angles.
The virtual reality system reduces costs for new designs and reduces the time it takes to go from conception to execution. This makes car development significantly faster. But the virtual cave's biggest payoff is something the engineers call clash detection. That helps determine if components like pipes and wires fit into a car without interfering with each other.
From service and even from manufacturing, this was proven that we had to move, let's see the little indent into the exhaust? This little recess where they bent it inwards. That was added into the tooling to allow this tool to access that part.
This studio has saved the company more than 3 times its cost in just 2 years of operation. It's being called the world's most advanced virtual reality facility within the automotive industry. Back in the real world, factory engineers and workers are using the design studio's futuristic technology to build Jaguar's top-of-the-line cars today. Still more than 2 days away from completion, the painted Jaguar monocoque chassis enters the trim and final area. Here, the cars go through 78 assembly stations. In mass production, a typical assembly station has just 2 minutes to complete a task. At Jaguar, technicians are given several intricate tasks to complete within 15 minutes. This way, time lost solving a single problem can be made up before the car needs to head to the next station. And at Jaguar, getting things just right is a matter of serious pride.
They take ownership of their work. If you speak to any of the operators building the vehicles, you'll find they have a great deal of pride in what they do. And on occasions, we might get people who make a small mistake. When you go to tell them, they're absolutely devastated. The pride in the work at Jaguar is second to none.
Keeping everything moving is a series of mobile platforms called a skillet line. With a skillet line, the entire floor actually moves along with the car and the workers, maintaining the flow of production while minimizing fatigue. As the car moves, each station adds a variety of parts needed for further finishing. One of the final steps is the dashboard. XK dashboards are custom built off-site and brought in just in time to meet their car at this stage of production. A high-def virtual instrument panel and touchscreen satellite navigation are standard features. The technician guides the steering column quickly and carefully to a hole within the lower dash.
Basically, his side has to go in first. Secure his side first. He'll give me the signal. I'll then secure my side. 3 bolts each side.
Next, they fasten connecting bolts to the correct torque settings and attach the necessary wiring.
Now I'm going to do all the electric for the instrument panel. Make sure they're all secured properly.
Installing the dash takes just 4 minutes to complete. But Jaguar ensures efficiency does not compromise quality.
We are responsible for every dash that goes into every car. If any mistakes are made while we're fitting a dash, we're held responsible for it. So we make sure every dash we put in is the same on every car. We pride ourselves in doing the job correctly, and hopefully we don't get no comebacks.
Finally, at the last station on the skillet line, it's time for the windshield and rear glass to be installed. Once again, robots help maintain a level of consistency and speed that's tough to match. Now, with the sealing adhesive applied, the men work in unison to carefully align the glass.
Job complete.
Have to clamp it underneath and then press these 2 buttons to grip the door. Well, then we'll now release the lock and lift it up. Stow the harness.
Once the doors are completely built and the car's ready to move on, it's time for them to part ways.
Position the door on the pegs. Close the door and lock it on. Release.
The doors will travel separately on conveyors. Jaguar's tracking system will make sure they meet up again later on.
And away it goes.
In the next phase, this Jaguar in the making will finally get married. But first, the engine, transmission, drivetrain, and suspension need to come together to form the Jaguar powertrain. The Jaguar XK chassis has been built, inspected, and fitted with a high-tech dashboard. What it needs now is power. Since the first XK hit the road, generations of powerful engines have helped establish the unique pedigree of Jaguar cars. The 5.0-liter V8 engines continue that tradition.
They're not cheap cars, so when you're paying that amount of money, you expect performance, you expect quality, and that's what we deliver.
The all-new XK models come with a choice of naturally aspirated or supercharged V8 engines.
Immense power underneath your right foot. If I could get it on the straight line, let me go, I'd have it up to 200 miles an hour if I could do.
The engine blocks are built mostly out of aluminum, with cast iron limited to the cylinder liners and crankshafts. They also have an industry first, a centrally mounted, multi-hole spray-guided fuel injection system. The positioning of the injectors ensures fuel is precisely delivered to the center of the combustion chamber. What that means to the driver is instant pulling power. Standard XKs produce 385 horsepower. The supercharged XKR pumps up the horsepower to 510 and a powerful 461 pound-feet of torque. It all adds up to 0 to 60 in a little over 4 seconds.
The power of the engine, just the purr of the engine, the feel once you're inside it, even if you're just sitting still with the engine purring over, you get this real tense feeling that you're going to have something special as you're driving down the road.
The XK powertrain is built at a special section called B-Block. Designed at Jaguar Warwickshire, the engines are shipped into Castle Bromwich. A quick scan links them to their intended vehicles.
So you can tell it's going to the USA. It's NA, which is normal aspirated, and this is going into a sports car. So some lucky customer in the USA is going to get this.
The engines are loaded on a hoist and moved down the line to get components. The final critical piece is the gearbox, or transmission. Each gearbox is engineered to perfectly match the specific Jaguar engine type a customer orders, either standard, supercharged, or fuel-efficient diesel. The transmission works in sync with an active suspension system that adjusts the ride according to driving conditions. The suspension will automatically go firm if the system recognizes wet conditions or a rough ride. With the transmission coupled to the engine, the unit gets a thorough inspection before moving on.
I inspect a quality engine. Basically, to me, a fast engine that needs to be looked after, needs to be a quality build. This gets my stamp so that the engine has been inspected. I've taken responsibility of that engine. If there's anything wrong, it will come back to me.
Stamped and approved, the Jaguar engine and transmission are set to produce serious RPMs. But they're still missing a critical piece, a drivetrain and suspension capable of getting that power into the wheels and onto the road. With the Jaguar engine and transmission joined, its recipe for power is almost complete. But first, it needs a way to drive all that power into the ground.
Everything's in line, the engines and axles match each other, matches the body, and there's not a clash of engines and axles being fitted wrongly.
The correct engine transmission unit's raised above its waiting drivetrain and suspension system. Carefully lowered into place, the technicians make the necessary connections. Finally, the radiator's installed. The result is a finished powertrain, ready to meet the XK body. The marriage takes a four-man team. Probes fit into the underside of the body to make sure it's in the right position.
Yeah. What? Every green light shows that it's been tightened up to the correct torque. If it's an amber or a red light, then obviously there's an issue, so you have to go over that or do it again.
They work like a Formula One pit crew, fast and in sync.
You'll see them almost running around the vehicles, getting them in place. Using a standardised process, you can always tell when somebody's working away from the norm. So it's easy to detect when there's mistakes being made or somebody's making an error.
The entire process takes just 4 minutes. Now, the XK has its super power.
Oh, there's plenty of speed in it. They have to restrict them. I mean, you ain't getting no quicker than this. And they're economical as well, for what they are.
It's just a brilliant car to work on. You know, if I could have one, I would have one.
With just a few stations to go, the Jaguar gets its distinguished tailoring. The soft grain leather seats swoop in on a pneumatic arm. This way, the technicians can lift and adjust them without injury. Next, the team adds the center control console. Press the button and an alloy puck rises to become the starter and drive selector. With the interior completely installed, Jaguar technicians reattach the doors to the body. The XK is taking on the personality of a sports car. With just over a gallon of gas in the tank, the new XK is started up for the first time. it heads to its last inspection station, called Final Finessing. Here, the quality control team spot checks the car for the last time.
Leave the door like that, make sure it's got bowel in the striker, and get the gauge, check it out. Getting the gaps equal, you get an overall good visual impression.
At this point, it's highly unusual to find a mistake, and this XK checks out.
Nice smooth finish, equal gaps all over.
All 28 of the Jaguar XKs built on the line today have passed their rigorous inspections. They'll be shipped out via rail.
The beauty of rail transport, obviously, is that we can get 22 vehicles on one particular wagon. We can get 8 vehicles on a road transporter. This facility builds 66,000 units a year. 75% of those units are sent by rail. That's a pretty big saving.
The XKs head to port, where they'll be shipped around the globe.
My feedback from the actual customer is that thank you very much indeed. We've received our car, it's in excellent condition, and we can't wait to order another one.
From body in white to trim and final, the time to complete a single XK, 53 hours total. On the road to the tarmac, the designers, engineers, and workers of Jaguar have created cars that stand out and stand apart.
It's a very, very passionate company. You'll see passion from the guys on the shop floor right the way up to the senior management of the company. Very much, although we're a big company, it's very much about a team spirit, about a family spirit, and everybody working together to deliver the right outcomes for the customer.
A perfect blend of stylish form and furious speed. SpeedMakers, Jaguar.